Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and fight fans around the world. It's your boy P. Welsh here with another picks, previews, and predictions. We got UFC Fight Night Burns versus Brady. UFC Apex main card going off at 7 p.m. 7-3 off last week. We had a 7-4 record the week before that. And we're off to a flying start here with a rescheduled fight from that card. Ramaska versus Nathan Fletcher got postponed for a Fletcher injury, it said. Ramaska going off as a dog. And I'm just going to start and take him there. Somebody coming off an injury 2 weeks later, like, I don't know what it could have been, that like made him, the only thing I can think about is like Raul Rosas, but that was like way canceled, but his tummy hurt. Like, if it's an injury, we'll see what happens. I didn't get the full story. But I'm still going to take Ramaska here. I think he has that little bit of an edge in the striking department where Fletcher is pure ground game. Now, I want to see if his ground game domination is as good as it can be against somebody like Ramaska who can throw hands, especially early in the career. I'm always going to lean somebody that's a little bit more well-balanced because they tend to be not developed on one end, like throwing hands if you're just a wrestler. That's why I'm leaning Ramaska here. And then the Fletcher injury, withdrawal from 2 weeks ago. And they're saying it's getting rebooked so fast. I couldn't find the number on DK, so I think I like Ramaska here, and I'm gonna take him again. There's really not much more to say. I think they got a little bit. They're very well matched. There's definitely a height advantage for Ramaska, and I think that's gonna play another advantage in there. And I think we're just going to take it to the bank early on. Bang. Moving on. My guy, middleweight division. Andre Petrovsky, 11-4 versus Dylan Budka, 7-3. A little bit of a reach advantage for Budka here, but I think this has Petrovsky all day. This has a wrestling, take him down, slug him out, whatever you can do. I think Petrovsky's losing condition is getting knocked out and beat up over the course of the fight, and I really don't know if that's what Budka can do to him. I think Petrovsky is going to have a very, well-rounded game where he's just going to go in there and take him down, and I don't think he necessarily has as good as a ground game and wrestling game as Petrovsky. Big, like a 7-year experience gap as well for Petrovsky, and I really like that. Somebody with just that many rounds in, that much experience, even going through some losses. He has UFC wins on his record, so despite him, losing in fights that I predicted him to lose, he destroyed Josh Freemed, which was a terrible pick that I had earlier in the year. So I think his grappling gets it done. I think he'll be able to throw it. He's not fighting a killer like Michel Pereira, like Jacob Mulkin caught him after a head collision when he was going in for a takedown. He got stunned on like the neck. And I think he's got a lot of talent and a lot of opportunity to put on a nice, full. I think he could. I think either of them could lose it late, but I think what's likely to happen is Petrovsky just control the fight enough, probably win by split decision, get enough takedowns, get enough grapple, get enough control, do enough damage so when he gasses out at the end, which he's like, hopefully Budka's gassed out as well. He's really going to have to win on the strikes, which he hasn't proven. That's Budka. So, other than that, I got Petrovsky here. Not my favorite pick, but in this kind of matchup, I think he's got a really good advantage, and I think he's got a really good win condition to either take it home to the judges or maybe perhaps get a good mount position and maybe a cheeky, like, rear naked choke or something. I think he's going to make a little bit of a run here, Petrovsky, as long as he's not fighting like an absolute striking killer in middleweight, and as long as he's not fighting one of these huge guys. But boom, Petrovsky. Moving on to the women's strawweight division, Jacqueline Amorim, 8-1 versus Vanessa Damaropoulos at 11-5. A little bit of a 1-inch height advantage for Amorim. And what do you want to say about these women's fights? This fight's probably going to the judges' scorecard. I think it's going to be very closely contested. Might have a slight grappling edge for Amorim, 6 submission wins, but I don't know if Demopoulos is one of those people that you can get on the ground and control like that. I've watched her scrap before, and she has never been submitted, and I think she has a great chance to win this fight. I'm leaning her as we begin the breakdown, but I also feel this as a fan and somebody that's watched it. The judges love Demopolis. Like the judges love her. I think she throws a lot of volume, makes good contact, and I think she'll be able to do the damage against Marine to make it a slug to go to the judges' scorecard. I think this is one of those when you look at Amarine's record, her losses to Sam Hughes, one of those like same similar styles to Demopolis, where they just like to throw hands and just get into scraps and probably can't take them down and finish them because they're just as strong as their opponent who's trying to do that. It's a very like common thing to see in the women's division. The athletic like advantage is not really there sometimes, and they just got to throw very equal hands. And I like Demopolis here. I really do. I like her as a big underdog. She's won like that a lot. I think that's how she goes into the card. I think a lot of people sleep on her, and she has a style that the judges do like, and she is always going to the decision. She's going to throw hands, and when it gets close, you're going to be sweating it out, and she's probably going to do enough in there because she knows she has to throw volume. She doesn't just sit back, relax. She's very aggressive, and I think if the opponent isn't able to implement their game plan and dominate, she looks really good in exchanges and, countering and doing enough damage and not taking so much. I mean, I think she takes quite a bit. I think she's been lucky to win one fight against her two fights ago. I was live watching it, and other girl was like minus 6,000 to win, and she lost, and she was like plus 2,000. Big dog that's always paid off. On Marine, very young, very has to be put through the meat grinder in a term. 29, not the youngest, but again that big advantage there. So let's see what Almarine has. Let's see what Demopolis has. I think Demopolis is ready for a fight here. I'm going for the cheeky underdog pick on the record, Demopolis. I just think the judges love her, and and again, it's one of those things too. How many times have we seen this minus 300 favorite, this minus 298 women's favorite, just quite a bit. It's probably one of the bigger upsets that happen, and I think another one's happening. I would love to see Amarine put in a class performance to like shut me up and prove me wrong, but I'm not picking against Demopolis. Like she just has a way of getting into scraps, looking good, throwing volume, and she doesn't fade, right? Like if there's one thing that I would like even have if this card doesn't go, I got Demopolis in the third round. Maybe, just coming in hot. But bang, first big upset of the card. Moving on to the featherweight division, Yi Za, 24-4 coming off a loss against Gabriel Santos, 12-2 coming off a loss, 2-inch height advantage for Santos, a little bit on the leg reach advantage. And I was kind of going back and forth here. Do we go Yi Za? What do we like about him? High submission game. The one fighter he fought last lost to Yi Jung Lee, lost to Hyder Amil, so he lost on the card. And I think this more has to go to Santos being able to have faced better competition in his career, and even in losses to David Oyama and losses to Leroy Murphy. Their experiences and driving forces that I think puts him at a little bit of an advantage here. He's the betting favorite, a little bit of an experience advantage, and 0-2 in the UFC, and I could see him getting finished here, honestly. But I also really like his ability to throw hands, mix it up, and get into a more favorable position against the Giza, who's not so experienced in the octagon. I think that's like, he's had the one Jung Young Lee fight night, so he's been here before. But is Santos going to come and raise the level to something that, Za has not been able to get to? I think he's got a lot of talent. I think he's got a lot of capability, but I think I don't know. This one should be a spicy one. I was going back and forth. I was leaning Yiza, trying to talk myself into it, but I'm really just going to go with the desperate guy to get the finish, who's had some experience against actually great opponents, like Leroy Murphy, split decision loss. He's undefeated fighter, and David Onama. He's a beast, man. He's a beast. He's not nothing to, scoffed at. So I think those are good scraps, and I got Santos here. Gabriel Santos. I think he just has enough to get it done. I think he'll control the grappling. Maybe get Gilly choke could end it, but I think he'll be able to throw hands, control the fight, and if not get a finish, I think he can definitely win on the judges' scorecard. I think he'll dominate at least the first 2 rounds if he fades down the stretch, which could be he's not able to finish him, and then it's just very hard to implement the game plan in the 3rd round. That being said, like fighters can always just get hit one time and change the course of the fight. Like they're winning the 1st round and a half, get punched right in the nose, gas out, and it definitely happens late 2nd, early 3rd sometimes. So especially with these younger fighters, like you always got to keep those possibilities in there, but. I like Santos here. I like him to rebound. Not so much worried about Za, what he's done. I think it's about what Santos can do and what Za has to prove. So let's see what happens. This one's going to be spicy. Really just going very close to it being a pick'em. But we're moving on to the flyweight division. Felipe Dos Santos, 8-1 versus Andre Lima, 9-0. Not too much, a little bit of a reach advantage for Dos Santos. And this one I was going back and forth on too, man. I like Andre Lima a lot, but I like Felipe Dos Santos. I will say this. I think Lima has an advantage in the striking department, but I think Dos Santos has a real advantage in the grappling. I don't know what the takedowns will look like if Lima will have the strength, because last time Lima fought at flyweight, I think he was like 5 pounds over. So that being said, if Lima comes in 5 pounds over, I will pick Lima. But if they gotta actually cut down and make flyweight, see, that's my thing. That's what I think this fight all comes down to. Does Lima make weight? Because Dos Santos, I think, is gonna make weight, and I think he's gonna have a game plan, and he may be able to implement it. But again, it's coming in. I think Lima's very big very stout for a flyweight. Yeah, last weigh-in, he's 5 pounds over. So let's see if that happens here. If he makes weight, I like Felipe Dos Santos to win by grappling. That sounds so cliche because like I'm not expecting him to make weight. I really like Dos Santos anyway because that's what the prediction is going to be made on, right? If he doesn't make weight, then we'll pick Lima but if he doesn't make weight, we're not picking the fight. It doesn't count if you don't make weight. Like that, especially because we're calling our shot here, calling our shot. I like Dos Santos, man. I really think he's got a great chance to upset Lima if he can avoid the heavy hands. If he can get into a favorable position, I think sometimes the speed is there to get the grappling exchanges off before the guy can respond, especially if he has never really been in that position before. I think Lima's very fortunate. He got a split decision win against Mitch Raposo, a grappler, but he looked very good. But Raposo doesn't really have the hands and the length that Dos Santos does. So that's why I kind of think I'm picking Felipe Dos Santos here. Like, again, assuming he makes weight. Because if this guy comes in 5 pounds over again, like, it's such an advantage to somebody that's actually cutting to 124 last weigh-in. So that's my assumption here. I'm picking Dos Santos because Lima's making weight, and I don't think he'll have the gas tank. Plus, right, like he had the gas tank to go 15 minutes because he's 5 pounds over. That's always going to be a huge advantage. And that being said, I got Felipe Dos Santos. Got the gas tank. I think he's got the moves. He'll have the explosiveness. I think he's training at a step above place than Lima. I think he's an ATT product. Shoot box. So even just, almost just as good. He sometimes can throw out stinkers, that gym, but I kind of believe in Dos Santos. I've watched him fight a few times, been very impressed. Lima won via a bite, and then he won via split decision 5 pounds over. So let's see what happens, man. Let's see what actually happens. I got Dos Santos here for picking the official picks. Let's go. Moving on. Then we're going to keep this one short here. Isaac Dulgarian versus Brendan Marathi. 6-1 coming off a loss versus 8-2 coming off a loss. And, I mean, huge betting favorite for Isaac Dulgarian. And what can you really say there? He's at a little bit of a disadvantage there, but that must mean the power's coming in. Muay Thai background, 1-1, lost to Christian Rodriguez, a very balanced fighter. So he really has to prove and get a nice win on his record, and I think that's what's going to happen here. Brendan Marat is, a very fine fighter, but only 20 seconds experience because he got knocked out. I think Dulgarian is looking for a knockout here himself, and That being said, I don't really know what I can get behind Murat here besides to hopefully just keep it and go to the judges' scorecard. Look pretty good and not get knocked out in 20 seconds by McKinney, who usually is getting knocked out in a little bit more than in about 30 seconds. So I'll take Bulgarian by knockout. He's got 4 KO wins on his record. Hasn't won via the scorecard. Only lost to that Christian Rodriguez. That was a fight night in March. So like 6 months ago. I'm trying to remember that fight night. I kind of had Tuivasa, Tybura. Yeah, that was a crazy little scorecard. Split decision on that one too. Since then, Rodriguez been finished. So I'm not really worried too much about that one. We'll go Bulgarian, probably to knock him out would be the nice move. He's never seen the scorecard. Keep it short and sweet. Move on to the light heavyweight division. Ryan Superman Spann, 21-10 versus Vincent Peru, 27-17. Spann coming off a loss. I think it's like 3 losses. Peru coming off a win. And very similar matchup. What are you supposed to say about this one? What do you want to pick here? You want to pick Ryan Spann? There's no way I'm actually going to go pick Ryan Spann. We called him to lose to Guskov before that. He cost us against Anthony Smith. And if there's one thing that I hate calling people out like this, but if there's one thing that's going to happen here is I don't want a guy that fades down the stretch. Like, I think St. Peru, at least like in his last fight against Kennedy Nzechukwu, who Kennedy's nothing special by any stretch of the means. Like, he didn't fold, right? He lost to Lins. He hasn't been the most active. He's getting up there in age, 41. I don't think Spann wants to put the volume out. Like, my thing is Spann has to finish this early. He's got to catch him. And, you know, what are we thinking back? The Dominic Reyes jab from 2.5 years ago? Like, nah, I'm picking Vincent Peru. I think he's just going to have a little bit more heart going down. He's going to win the 3rd round if it gets there. So all he's got to do is take 1 or 2 from Spann, and I think enough judges are going to give it to him. Like, I just don't think Spann's got the dog in him anymore. Unfortunately, I'm not picking him. He's got a little bit of a height advantage, right? That's going to make a little bit of a difference getting in there. But if St. Peru has the hands, I'm not picking Spann, dude. Like, there's no way. There's no way I'm picking Spann. Like, I'm picking St. Peru. Bro, you know, 41 years old. Maybe he's got another good performance in there. Sometimes these old cats, like, against questionable fighters, like, even, like, somebody like freaking, what was the last one with Morono? Morono and the other guy that he fought, it wasn't Vince Pichal. It was somebody else. But, I mean, the man got worked over there. But, like, sometimes it doesn't work out with, there was another dude. He got beat up like plus 400. But I got St. Peru here over Ryan Spann. I ain't ever picking Spann again. Like, hopefully he'll have a knockout, maybe, but at minus like 3 something, like, there's no way I have that much confidence in a man who's put up performances like that, who's just not gonna do it. Right? Like, I mean, St. Peru, his wins are basically Menefield and Nzechukwu in the last 4 years, right? Is he going to put another one on there? It's highly unlikely. That's what the bettings are telling you, but if there's a chance, there's a chance. And I don't think Spann's really like that big of a light heavyweight to knock him out. Like, he hit, you know, we'll see what happens there. But St. Peru, big upset. Fade if you don't pick Spann if you like him. But when this guy comes through in the 3rd round and you're rooting for Spann and he's just not doing anything different, like, that's what I just think. Like, inside the octagon, Spann is just not advanced, right? The levels to the game. I think he's very good at, like, fighting in a way where he can throw punches, combinations, kicks, keep somebody that's worse than him. But as soon as he fights a competitor, right, that's equal or above him, I think it becomes very challenging for him. St. Peru, big upset. Moving on. I think this is the main card, ladies and gentlemen. The lightweight bout, we got Rong Zhu, 24-5 versus Chris Paldea, 14-6. Both men standing at 5'7", 5-inch reach advantage for Paldea here. And let's start with Zhu. What are we supposed to say about Zhu? 24 years old, a lot of knockout wins, some submissions on the card. 1-2 in the UFC. Losses to Bahamundes and Vargas, 2 very good fighters. Rodrigo Vargas and Bahamondes, and very young to have that much experience. So it always makes me worry about the caliber of fighters he went against. That being said, Chris Paldea made his debut, won in the first round against Yanni Top, who fought like last week, who I don't think is high at all. But I think Paldea is a beast, man. I like Chris Taco Paldea here. I think he's got this dog to him that he's going to be very exciting. He is a dog in the fight, and I think he's got great opportunity to win in the hands department, and not only that, compete in the grappling game. I would say that I think he's very well-rounded. I think he's a very good athlete. I think when we get into this lightweight division and we see these guys standing at 5'9", they're so athletic. You know, they wanted to maybe play other sports, and they played a lot of stuff growing up. Especially, I just think Paldea is super athletic for what he can do in the octagon, what he's going to bring to the table here, just the volume, the duration. And I think he's going to bring it to Zoo, which he has a lot of experience, but has any of his fights been against somebody that's to Padilla's stature? The same is going to be said across the way, too. You can say the same thing, especially with a lot of early losses. But I like a fighter that is on kind of a streak and learning from old losses. You know, he lost in Bellator, was losing a bunch of other stuff, but looks like he really stepped up. Like I said, maybe the ground game for Zoo is an opportunity for him to really go at it, right? If he but I don't necessarily think that's just his game. You know, he's got a lot of KO wins on other circuits, and his one UFC win is by knockout, so he might be thinking that he might need to throw hands at the end too if Paldea's winning. I like Chris Paldea here. I think he'll win some rounds. I think he's got potential to finish the fight. I think he's very good at getting in favorable positions, and I think we should see a cracker of a fight, man. I really like Paldea here. I hope he puts another win on the record for us. And he's in the apprenticeship program for the Bomber Squad. A couple more make me look good, a couple more nice finishes, and he's going to be getting the recruitment letter here soon enough. But Chris Paldea here. Let's see what's going on. And let's move on to another lightweight fight. Trevor Peek versus Janal Ashmouz. 9-2 for Peek versus 7-1 Ashmouz. And this one should be another great fight, man. What's not to say about this fight? Trevor Peek is going to give you 15 minutes of hands, feet, knees, elbows, grappling all over the octagon. If you have the heat map, the whole octagon is hot when Trevor Peek is fighting. With that being said, he's a little careless, not as clean as you'd like to see some professional fighters, but man just loves and he's so excited to get in there and try and fight somebody. And I think it helps him and hurts him. I think it helps him against fighters that are not as good as him, but as soon as guys have been in the experience and have the mental to take a breath as they're fighting and deal with it, I think we could see that as well from Ashmouz here. I think he's got a chance to really fight with Peek very well and go to the decision. I think Peek has to win this by knockout. He tends to gas out later in the fights. Ashmouz, I don't really know what his tank is like. He's got a lot of finishes. 1-1 on the scorecard. The only loss in the UFC was on the scorecard. So, is he going to be able to get enough done? Is he going to be able to grapple? Is he going to be able... That's where he's going to have to kind of drain Peek early on. Is can you establish a takedown and a grappling game against Peek, who's going to get up very fast too, so you're going to spend a lot of energy. I really want to pick Peek here, but just knowing that he doesn't have doesn't finish that well is why I'm picking Ashmouz here. He's a slight underdog as well. It's a very 50-50 fight, and I think it's going to be a split decision fight. I very well could see that. I also could see Peek losing the edge a little bit, maybe 29-28. Doesn't have to be split decision, but very close fight as well. Peek has fought some great guys, Charlie Campbell, Chepi Mariscal. His only win was Muhammad Yahya by decision. I wish he got a finish there. He hasn't really finished anybody in a while, so I think he's going to come out hungry. I think he's primed for a good spot. He's got the smaller cage on the fight night, and I think he's going to put on a clinic. He could starch him in very early on, but if this goes late, I really like Ashmouz here, and I think that's what's going to happen. So I just Peak throws so hard, so wide, so fast that if he just connects, it's over. But the thing is, if this guy comes in clean, I haven't really seen him fight. That's when I'm just gonna come in there and this is cage fight. These are professional cage fighters. There's a craft to it, and Peak has to hone in his craft and tighten it up a little bit because I have a feeling this guy, Peak could knock him out with a jab, straight right jab like Ryan Spann against Reyes in the right timing in the right situation when you're setting up all those wide punches and throws could definitely get him the win. I like Ashmos here to maybe try and just cut the distance. Just try and control, slow the fight down, wear Peak out, and then win it late. I got Ashmos here, but very close fight. I'm rooting for Peak, honestly. This is one that I kind of hope I get wrong. I'm kind of picking against Peak here because of what I've seen in his fights. As much as I'm a fan and I've rooted for him before, he has to prove it to me now. And I think that's what I think that, but we haven't, and so does Ashmos. Like we haven't seen him prove anything as well. All right, the flyweight division, Matt Schnell, 16-8, standing 5'8" versus Alessandro Costa, 5'4". Flyweight looks like he's coming down quite a bit. And, Matt Schnell's famous for giving Steve Ursig the title shot by getting knocked out twice by his hand and by the canvas. A big reach advantage for somebody coming in very small. He did make weight 125. I like Costa here a lot. I think he's very strong, powerful, and athletic, and I think he's absolutely going to give Schnell a run for his money here. Maybe I don't want to say his submission here. I don't really know if that's in his repertoire like that, but I know he gets into good positions on ground and pound, so he's punching, he's taking him down, he's closing the distance. I like Costa here. You probably got to take him by knockout to get any value. I think he's what do we got him at? Quite a bit. Minus 520, so Schnell has to prove it again. He could come in there, starch Costa as he's trying to get in there. Surprise of the night, plus 390 Schnell, but let's keep this one short and sweet. I think Costa's just got that explosiveness. Some of these guys especially these smaller Brazilian guys, they tend to have like this level of explosiveness that the average fighter just doesn't have. Now, it tends to gas them out over time, but it tends to also put them at great advantages. It does damage. They're able to jump and use their feet and legs, which they're very, culturally good at with soccer, stuff like that. They're always, training very dexterous, and I think that's a huge advantage where Schnell seems to be like a stand-up guy, almost like a punching bag in a way. So I don't want to say he's going to get ragdolled, but I got Costa here, easy on the picks. Moving on to some really exciting fights to end this card, man. We got Steve, I'm calling him Hammer Hands Garcia, 16-5, against Kyle Nelson, 15-5-1. A little bit of a reach advantage for Garcia here. 1 inch height advantage for Garcia. And Nelson just that dog, man. The bald bearded guys in the UFC, they're nothing to scoff at. They're always going off at like big underdogs, him and Dalby. But man, these guys are going to fight for the whole time. And they're freaking going to win a lot too. Can he get knocked out? Absolutely. Will he? That's a tough one. And he hasn't been knocked out since Billy Q, and that was 4 years ago. Lost to Jai Herbert, but it's been on a nice run. Kyle Nelson is that. And that's something that I always kind of worry about when I watch these bearded guys that are bald, stereotyping them. But I like Steve Garcia a lot, man. Mean Machine. He's freaking feels like he's got like them old man hands when he can just throw and just punch and beat up. But I will say, man, he did knock out Chase Hooper, who I want to say is very, competitive fighter. Is he going to be able to do it against Nelson? I really like the reach advantage. I think he's going to dominate on the feet. And I think Nelson has to kind of make it scrappy and dirty, get a takedown or two, wear Garcia out. And if he does that, he's live for the win. 100%. Because that's the one thing that it looks like if Garcia he gasses out, 60% of his losses are via decision, and that's where Nelson has to get this. He's got to get this going 3 full rounds. He's got to get some takedowns. He's got the opportunity, and he's been in good form. But all it takes is Garcia to catch him when he's figuring out the game plan. How disciplined is Garcia going to be? How prepared is he going to be for looking at the specific thing? My man has looked very good in the octagon recently, and I don't want to pick against Garcia, but knowing that, okay, what we'll do is we're picking Garcia. Garcia is the official pick, but we're definitely going to throw some units on Nelson just because you just think somebody like Nelson can take it to the card, take it to the decision. I don't think he's going to really knock him out because I think Garcia will stand pretty far away, use the length, and try and control the fight as best as possible. But I think Nelson has the opportunity to close the distance, take his power away, and make it dirty, make him sweaty, get it to the ground. And if Garcia has to expend energy, then he's not going to have the KO power that he has against some of his other guys who, dude, Nurnbergoff and Hooper wins are nothing to bat your eyes out. He beat Cheppy Mariscal a long time ago, but that's my guy, Cheppy. So Garcia is an absolute gangster here, and that's why he's getting the official pick. But Nelson is absolutely live dog, man. I think Kyle Nelson is in one of those forms. Like, yeah, they'll take some losses. They might be knocked out in their career by maybe guys that aren't better than them now. Like, if he's fighting Billy Q right now, Kyle Nelson, I'm picking Kyle Nelson all day, right? He's probably favored in the fight as well. But I just like Steve Garcia to maybe just kind of get the job done. Even control, split decision could be very close. Very close fight. I don't think this is one way. But like if I had to pick, I'm picking Garcia with controlling the distance early on, maybe fading down the stretch. But I can definitely see Nelson dominating round 3. Like 1-2 Garcia. Nelson really turns it on round 3. And it becomes very close. You know, it's going to be, could be very questionable here. Wouldn't be surprised if it goes either way, but official pick is going Garcia. I think he's got the hammer hands, dude. He just has a way of generating. I don't know. He's just something about him that I've watched. 4 straight finishes. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. In the UFC, let's see what he has going. He's got a little bit of a reach advantage. See, this is another thing. I got 73-inch reach on the other website. Let's see what they got now. They got him 75 here. So it's like, can I really take this seriously? Like, who's measuring here? Versus 71. So let's go Garcia. It doesn't change my mind. Garcia here. Moving on to the co-main event here. Jessica Andrade, 26-12 versus Natalia Silva, 17-5-1. Both ladies coming off a win here. And Andrade coming in as a big underdog at a 3-inch reach disadvantage and in the kicks. And I have to say, I understand that homegirl Silva is on a streak, but how the heck is Andrade a big 200 underdog? That makes no sense. I'm picking Andrade here. I think she gets the job done. I think she probably gets a finish. I think she's absolutely one of the best fighters in the world, and I don't know who Natalia Silva is well enough. Vivian Araujo, Andrea Lee, Victoria Leonardo. This is, I don't want to say free money because that's how you know you're always going to get burned at some point, but Andrade has been through the ringer with everybody, wins, losses, or draws. She's an absolute one of the hardest hitting females that we have in the promotion, and she's put it on the line against everybody, fighting 5 times last year. So a lot of experience, a lot of training, just an absolute dude. This is Andrade all day. Like I can't believe that they have her at such a big disadvantage against somebody that hasn't been in big moments against killers. Zhang, Shevchenko, Blanchfield, Jan, but she finished Dern, who's looking good still, even, after her last win, and versus Natalia Silva, 2 fights ago, Andrea Lee. Come on now. That's not going to get me excited and think you're a minus 200 favorite on a unanimous decision. Can she... Andrade. Let's go. Moving on to the main event of the evening, my guy Gilbert Torino Burns, 22-7, coming off a KO loss to JDM versus Sean Brady, 16-1, coming off a win. And a very nice stylistic matchup to put on the main event, 5 rounds. I think that's the one advantage Gilbert has in this fight is a 5 rounds. If it keeps going longer and longer, I think just that experience in there, but I really don't want to. I love Burns, man. He's literally my favorite fighter. He's just 38 years old. Brady is 31. Only loss coming to Bilal Muhammad. Now, if this was Gilbert of 3 years ago, I think he can walk through Brady of 3 years ago. But I think at this point, Brady's got a lot of skill, a lot of time training at as best as he can perform. And I don't really know how Burns can win. Burns is going to get a lot of kicks. He's going to throw 1-2 combinations. He's going to get kicks, and he's going to try and do takedowns and grappling. Now, if he can actually beat Brady in the grappling and the exchanges, I think that's actually his advantage. I don't know if that's the game plan, but I think if Gilbert can actually out wrestle and grapple Brady, I think that's where this fight's going to come. I think Gilbert's going to shoot, and then Brady's going to counter. It's whichever guy makes the least amount of mistakes. This is a very clean fight. This is going to be a very competitive fight. I can definitely see it go in 4 or 5 rounds. I also can see somebody getting finished in the second or third as well if they make one mistake, throw a kick, and they get their back taken. Because I kind of see Gilbert making that kind of mistake, like throwing a reverse kick and then just getting taken down, put in a bad position, and finished. That being said, I don't know if Brady's the guy that really has the most submission game. That being said, he Kimura'd Gastelum, but I mean, that really what I'm favoring Sean Brady from is a grappling match with Kevin Gastelum, essentially. It was a fight night, but lost to Bilal before that. Like, we know what Brady's going to do. He's going to grapple. Is he going to out grapple? Is he going to out grapple Gilbert? Man, I really hope not. But I think that's actually what happens. I just think he's younger, more youthful, more energetic. I think like there's like a sweet spot for your prime. And I mean, I think the title defenses say it ends about 35, 36. And especially in this weight class, and that's why I'm picking Sean Brady here. As much as I want Gilbert to win, I'll be rooting for Gilbert. I think for the official picks, I think you have to pick Brady. This is definitely he got KO'd by Bilal. I remember that card. That was Bilal's last win. No, he fought Gilbert. So Bilal beat both these guys. Knocked out Brady, and Gilbert had one arm. He's never been the same since, and I don't think Brady's been the same since either. He's had a lot of canceled bouts, Pereira, JDM, and Luque, and I think he got himself in one of the best positions he can to get himself a nice win against aging veteran who's a gatekeeper, and I want to see win, and I really hate picking against him, but man, I love you, Gilbert. You're my man, Durinho, but I got to pick Sean Brady here, man. I just think he's going to have, like, to me, it kind of feels like the Roman Kopylov, Fluffy Hernandez fight where, like, one guy's just going to, like, oh, yeah, he should be able to defend and do well, and then he just gets ran through. Now, I hope I'm completely wrong there. But that's why I'm picking Brady here. I just think he comes in there just super energetic. I think it goes a while. I think Burns holds his own. I think he'll have some advantageous positions, but this fight comes down to one person making one mistake and probably getting finished. If not, it's going to go to the judges' scorecard. And that being said, I really do think Gilbert was winning the JDM fight before he got finished. I know that's the lamest thing to ever say when the fight game. So he did get finished, and that's what makes me, doesn't matter what the judges had. Don't ask the judges. So I got Sean Brady. Hate picking it. I love Gilbert. Good luck, Gilbert. Kick his ass, Gilbert. But for the official picks, I'm going to pick Brady. Wrestling with the Lions here. Let's do a little recap here. We're going to have Ramaska, Petrovsky, Demonopoulos, Santos, Dos Santos, Bulgarian, St. Pero, Paldea, Ashmus, Costa, Garcia, Andrade, and Sean Brady. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoy the video. Leave your picks in the comments. If you pick 100% of the card right, I'll give you $100. And thank you for listening. Good luck. Have fun. Peace and love, everybody.